And welcome to the public board meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd, our first board meeting of the 2024-2025 school year. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that School District 72 operates throughout a large geographical area. Campbell River and Quadra Island schools and our school board office are located on the traditional territory of the Lingito people. But School District 72 also encompasses the traditional territory of the Kluhus on Cortez Island, the Comox in the Sayward region, and the Homofco First Nations of Butte Inlet. Please note that there is a short production delay between the live event that you are viewing and the meeting participants. And the question and answer function is open online for questions on agenda items throughout this meeting. A final call for questions will be made after the last agenda item, and the questions will be addressed at the end of the session. Well, it feels great to be back. I hope everyone is feeling that today on the first day back to school. It's great to come together with my colleagues on the Board of Education and discuss all of the exciting things that we're going to do in benefit of children this year. So as we move into the upcoming school year, I'd like to celebrate the work of our employees throughout the summer months to prepare our schools to welcome students back today. Gratitude to our janitorial and building work staff for their tireless summer work, maintaining grounds and deep cleaning all of our facilities. The pride you have in your work shines so brightly this first week of school as classrooms, hallways, and playgrounds once again begin to fill with children. Thank you also to those staff members working throughout the summer in both our summer school and childcare facilities. And finally, to all staff spending time to build their classrooms, working on school success plans, participating in training for new involving positions, ensuring our district's technological and administrative needs were met. Your work and your commitment is seen and appreciated. I'd like to highlight and congratulate Stephen Hawkins-Bogle as he begins his new role of District Director of Instruction for K-12 Learning. This role will further enhance the work of school-based teams and teachers by providing a district lens for learning supports, curriculum, resources, and professional development. Stephen has accepted this position after serving as principal at one of our local middle schools and comes ready to support classrooms and the board's strategic priorities of equity of education for all children under our care. As we settle into the September routine, I'd like to mention the work underway next door at Strathcona Gardens. As construction begins today, I believe, and continues for the next number of years, please note that access to Strathcona Gardens will be off of Pinecrest beside the west parking lot of the school district board office. It is anticipated that there will be a significant increase in traffic along the Pinecrest and Birch corridor, and we ask that parents, caregivers, and users of the Pinecrest field practice extra caution while in the area. As schools return, please adhere to school zone traffic laws and be mindful of children traveling to and from our facilities. And finally, on behalf of your Board of Education, we are looking forward to a great year working together to continue to enhance our local education system on behalf of students and families. Welcome back to everyone in our education community. And on to Superintendent's remarks.
Well, as usual, my comments are going to piggyback some of your comments, Chair Eddie. And I know we never sit down and compare notes or talk about what we're going to talk about, but I think it's really important that whenever we share comments, it's because we feel the same way and we feel that they're equally as important. And so the first thing I just wanted to say is I had the opportunity today to go to 8 different school sites. Let's see the new kindergartners, the new grade 6s, and the new grade 9s as they entered their school buildings. And one of the things I was really struck by was just how pristine and beautiful the buildings were. And it just really speaks to all the work that our summer crews do. And I know one of the first things we say when we come back is we say, welcome back. Did you have a good break? And for many of those people, they didn't have the break. They were working the entire summer so that A, we could have a break, but B, that our schools would be ready and up and running. So just wanted to reiterate that and say it's just amazing to me how much work gets done over the summer months. One of the things I did want to spend a little bit of time on is just some first year reflections on the job, you know. I was mentioning to the board earlier tonight that what a difference a year makes. You know, last year I came here as a new superintendent, wondering what it was going to be like, wondering what the district was like. And a year into the job, I can say just how incredibly pleased I am and what a fantastic district SD 72 is. I think I entered this year with a sense of calmness that maybe I didn't have last year, but also a real sense of excitement for what's to come. Having spent a year in the district and getting to know the leadership, the trustees, the teachers, it's very apparent to me that this is a very, very strong district. It has tremendous potential. I just wanted to share just a couple of quick things that we went through last year, and then move on to some things that we're looking forward to in the year to come. As has been mentioned in the past, we had 7 brand new childcare facilities open up throughout last year, and 6 of those were operating with school district staff. And we're really excited to see how those go. We know already that we have longer lists. Some have wait lists to get into. So we hope we're providing something that's much needed in the community, and we look forward to continue to provide that. When many of us are away in the summer, we have summer staff that are actually teaching kids. We had over 900 students participate in summer school programs this summer, which was awesome to see. And that program just keeps growing year after year. We also had one of the highest graduation completion rates in the last 5 years in our school district. And we completed a comprehensive K-5 literacy framework that Associate Superintendent Kyle is going to speak to later in the board meeting. And that's just a very tip of the iceberg of the types of things that have been happening in Campbell River last year. As we move ahead, Chair Eddie also mentioned our new director, Stephen Hawkins-Bogle of instruction. He's responsible for curriculum instruction, assessments, and also social emotional learning. And we did just complete that literacy framework. One of his major tasks is going to be to complete a new numeracy framework. We're looking forward to seeing how that's going to roll out and how it's going to improve our numeracy rates and our numeracy scores as we move ahead. One last thing I wanted to touch on is enrollment. Everybody always wants to know what our enrollment is. Hats off to Secretary Treasurer Kevin Patrick, who gave a projection in kindergarten of 355 students. And I looked this afternoon just before the board meeting, and we just hit 355 students. That's so thank you for that, Mr. Patrick. And the rest of the enrollment from grades 1 to 12, we will be viewing this week and getting updates from all of our sites. I hope to have a bit of a better handle on Friday, but as the Secretary Treasurer will always say, we don't really know the number until September 30th when we do our 1701 submission. But we feel like we're in a pretty good spot. So really looking forward to another great year in Campbell River. Thank you, Chair. It's awesome.
Thank you, Superintendent Manning. Moving on to approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 18th, 2024. May I have, there's a motion. I'm sorry. It's been a while. That the minutes of the meeting of June 18th, 2024 are hereby approved as circulated. Trustee Gillis and seconded by Trustee Briggs. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Are there any additions or alterations to the agenda? Seeing none, the motion reads that the agenda is hereby approved as circulated. May I have a mover? Trustee Gladish, Trustee Harper, all those in favor? Report of board decisions from the September 3rd confidential meeting, Vice Chair Gillis.
We dealt with matters of teaching, administrative, and support staff changes and property, legal, and financial.
Thank you. Seeing no correspondence or public or agenda submissions, we also have no educational submissions this evening. on to electorate and board matters, which is the presentation of the 23-24 schedule of internally restricted surplus. Secretary Treasurer Patrick.
So this is the first presentation of the year where we start to look at how our district did financially last year. So what tonight I'm gonna do is I'm gonna present a proposed list of internal restrictions. And if the board accepts it, we'll take these restrictions and we'll put them into our financial statements in the notes section. So our financial statements aren't complete until you have the opportunity to approve what's the funds there for the internal restrictions. So our internal restrictions, just a reminder, are intended through board governance policy to really be focused on sort of one-time items or like non-ongoing operating items. Because as we learned a few years ago, the reserves, both internal and unrestricted reserves, could be used in an emergency and not be available the next year. So the board is committed to looking at ways to enhance and make sure students get that surplus that I'll point out in a minute. It came from unspent funds from prior years that the board had committed to for services to students. So this really gives us an opportunity faster than waiting for the budget to address some emergent items. So in your agenda, you've got just a list of proposals, but I want to go through some details that show a little bit more because on here, the first big announcement from our financial statements is it's number 369. That is our surplus for the last fiscal year. So $70 million budget, and we came in with an operating surplus of $369,000. We had budgeted $40,000 surplus. So we did a little bit better, but there are some one-time items that added that. If you take those $300,000 out, and we're about $69,000 to our community. So overall, the districts did really, really well. It's nice to have a larger surplus, but what that means is that plans that you made earlier in the year weren't necessarily fulfilled or costs came in less. And potentially the support to students weren't achieved. So ideally in education, what we want to see is close, and this is very, very close because it's close on the right side of close. So with that 369, it is added to the reserves. We started the year, this green column is where we started the year at 2.2 million. And you can see that it has added to the reserves. And that gives the board the opportunity to approve a few items in here. So what you see here, the green is the 2.2 is last year. So those were the restrictions, the internal reserves that we had identified last year. Then as you go through the column A and column F really are the budgets that were added to those items through the year. Then in G, for instance, for Indigenous, it's extra grants that we got externally. But the big one that we focus in is on the spending and the balance, which kind of shows that those reserves were being used and really what is left over. So the only item on this that is actually technically that the ministry accepts as an internal restriction is the Indigenous program targeted funds. We're actually mandated that what is not spent on that program must be saved for the next year. And we actually have to write to the minister to get approval to spend those on that program in the next year. So with a $2.2 million program, they had a balance remaining of $135,000. So of course, we're going to put that proposal in the far sort of yellowish column to restrict that for the upcoming year. School supply accounts. Again, they started the year at 94. They're ending the year at 112. So a little bit of an increase, which again is good because it means that most of those funds were spent where they're intended to. International program. So they actually went up a little bit, but with some of their marketing and some of their planning, they're committing to funds before the year starts. So generally they have had a bit of some of that planning funding. And it is going up to $89,000 for this next year. You can see the next item, the international program to balance the budget. So that was actually something that we budgeted to balance the budget. We ended up not needing that. So in addition to the 369, we didn't need to take that extra from them. Well, which is good because they ended up with $89,000 at the end of the year. Operational needs and contingency. So as part of the internal reserve policy of $1.482 million is the maximum amount that the board would like to have in reserves. You know, through COVID, we used a lot of that emergency contingency. It did exactly what it needed to do. It was the first place that we went when the board made the decision to continue with services to the end of the year rather than cut services mid-year because of the accelerated costs we were facing at that time. And part of that policy says that it can only be rebuilt through surplus at this time. So what we have there is a 20% increase to it. We still have a ways to go, but it's growing in the right direction. And so the choice here really is, do you add new items or do you increase that faster? So that's a choice potentially that the board could make. When management took a look at it, though, we felt that there's maybe some other items. Now, right under that, the health and safety conference room and Sims replacement. So the health and safety and conference room, those programs weren't fully spent with those projects, but they're done. So, so there's no need to carry them forward. Whereas the Sims replacement was put in place, it was identified last year. And it's gonna need to continue to build up because the program costs are gonna be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement. We don't have a product picked, but this is us saving up to get ready for, and that will grow in the future. So there are some items down below under the new additions, and why we've got them here is because there's some new proposals in this section. So IT equipment, you can see there's a pretty significant allocation of programs and services through that, but after the end of it, there was $117,000 left from the operating. And that's actually okay because we asked our IT department to basically plan for evergreen replacement. Our equipment needs to get replaced in cycles from 2 to 7 years. And in an annual operating budget year, there's not enough budget to cover when these batches of equipment need to be replaced. So what we asked him to do is to save up 1 or 2 years. They've got the funds to make an order for, say, a fleet district-wide. But what we do know is those costs continue to go up. And so in addition to the 117, we're proposing to add $87,000. At the budget, at the preliminary budget in May, when we were talking about it, we had hoped to actually add $100,000 to their budget to support the ongoing needs. We weren't able to do that. We thought we could do it here, but we just don't quite have enough to get that up to 100. So we're proposing the 117 plus the new addition, 205. Strategic priorities. Just a reminder, it used to be 250, we cut it down to 150, and last year and this year, we're proposing to top it up at this time because we don't have room in the operating budget. So we're proposing 120. Health and safety, the needs are, of course, we had identified last year that they were growing. And what this is to purchase a program a health and safety program for staff and for contractors that will help manage some of the safety information, the certificates, requirements, and that sort of thing. They will add the ongoing costs into the budget, but this will be a big help to getting that started and getting it in place. So yeah, we've made significant investments both for capital safety and operational personnel, and this will continue to make that whole new setup work really well. And then maintenance vehicle. The paint department needs a new van. It's not usually mechanical, it's rust that we seem to be susceptible to here. And yeah, just last week I could see through the bumper. So that proposal was very timely, and we're requesting that they add some equipment here. The equipment needs from maintenance was quite a lot. But we picked the largest, highest priority request at this time. The other ones we're going to address through support from capital. So what that leaves is an unrestricted amount, which can also be combined with contingency. It is available of $1 million, same as last year, and restrictions in the amount of $1.62 million. So it's good. It's not large. It's headed in the right direction. There's not a lot of new items. Again, some of them are tied directly back to budget, some of the budget conversations. And so we're looking for the board to support this today to be worked into the financial statements that will be brought forward next meeting.
Just to ask kind of question, the SIMS, the data management, how much do you think that's ultimately going to cost, and at what point do you think that change will be made?
So our target has been like opening up to a tender or an RFP when we get to about $350,000. So if it's larger than that, we might need to keep saving. So, but at this point, because there's two components to it, there is the purchase of, then there's an implementation of, and I'm betting that they're equal. So, so at that 350, I would expect 158,000 to be purchase, with the rest of it to be implementation support, and that's training, personnel, release time, all that sort of stuff. So if you're prepared, then it'll have a greater chance for success and integration in, because it's a product that really impacts you, like it impacts everybody, right? So it's your pay system, accounting system, and there's all sorts of other things for the school district. So yeah,
Thank you.
sorry.
I'm sorry, Trustee Hagan?
Oh, yeah, I'd just like to make a motion to approve the acceptance of the report as is given to us to integrate it into our budget.
Okay, is there a seconder? Trustee Harper, and discussion, Trustee Gladys.
Just a quick question about the strategic priorities. Now, is that to, for example, to allow the new director of instruction to put together, say, the numeracy framework that you talked about and those kinds of initiatives? Is that what you're thinking about for that? Okay.
Yes, what I'm hoping is that the new director of instruction, the associates and superintendent will sit down shortly and come up with an educational plan for the year of different supports that are required, both for the literacy, but as for everything really for the year. In this manner, it does give some flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as tied in or targeted as some of the district supports that we used to have. But we're gonna add everything together, including from like our learning resource district portion, our school growth district portion, strategic priorities are all gonna get added together, and we're gonna look for a plan for the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
Trustee Hagan?
Yeah, I was wondering, when we purchase vehicles like this, is it going to be an electric vehicle or is it going to be gas driven?
So they'll take a look. I believe the electric vehicle that we did purchase is a little bit more than this. We're needing a full-size van for the paint department, so it's likely it'll be a gas. Is my
Okay.
As of now, we have one maintenance vehicle that's electric. Two, just one.
Just
We've got
the
one,
futures.
yeah, one for feeding future. We have another little van. So we have one for feeding future, that came through feeding future equipment. And we have two electric buses that we are just receiving now. So we're still new to the electric. Our charging infrastructure is in place. But, yeah, we kind of probably want to see how it goes before we commit like a lot more to, some of the EV. Units.
Thank you. So, the motion that the 23-24 schedule of internally restricted reserves be accepted as presented has been moved by trustee Hagan and seconded by trustee Harper. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? So moved. Thank you. So, 12B, this is the final reading of the board governance policy 7, trustee code of conduct. This policy was presented, for or for first reading at the September or June 18th meeting. And I'll move it over to trustee Gillis of the governance committee.
Yes, this has been circulated, and again, I think the important piece in this is that, in a world or a culture with sometimes differences, it's really important for us to establish our own modeling of what we expect. And I believe our trustees have all had the opportunity to review this code of conduct, and it has been widely circulated, and so we're asking for adoption as it reads.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Gillis. And so the motion for the board policy adoption is that the board adopt the board governance committee's recommended revision of board governance policy 7, the trustee code of conduct. May I have a mover? Trustee Gladish and seconded by trustee Hagan. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? So moved.
And if I just might add that the policy committee, governance committee is in the process of identifying several of our policies that we would like to review throughout the year. So we'll be a featured component of many of the board meetings. Yes.
Thank you for that work. I know that it can be onerous and time consuming. Thank you to the governance committee. Riveting. On to 12C, board vision, mission, value statement survey.
Okay, thank you, Chair Eddie. As the board knows, and I'm sure the entire district knows, we were very proud to release our strategic plan last January. But one of the things that was missing from the strategic plan was a refresh on the vision, mission, and value statement. And so last school year, we went through a process of surveying our parents, students, staff, and broader community. We received, I believe, 713 submissions. And with all of that, you have to take that information in and gather it and process it and try to come up with themes and figure out exactly what the people are asking of us. So our communications manager, Jennifer Patrick, did that with myself, and we collated that information into a document. And we think we have converted that into a survey that will be ready to resend, just to make sure we caught what the public was saying and see if we were missing anything. I'd just like to take a few moments to go over this survey with trustees and with the board, so that you'll know what we hope to put out in the next week or so. The first demographic question that is asked is, what is your role in the district? Whether you're a parent or caregiver, a student, a staff member, or interested community member. When we came up with the vision statement feedback, we tell the survey that there was broad agreement on certain themes, and we've come up with two statements that have opportunities for the public to actually choose which statement they believe most represents the feedback that they've given. So we ask, which of these statements do you like best when you think of a new vision statement for the school district? A, an inclusive community where every individual can grow, excel, and contribute. B, a responsive and dynamic learning environment where all students can realize their unique potential. Or C, a community that honors diversity and fosters connections, ensuring equitable opportunities for all learners. part 2 of the vision portion says, is there anything that we are missing from the vision statement that you prefer? And then their choices are no, I think the choice that I've selected is good as it is written, or yes. And then they have an opportunity to put in what they feel was missing in that statement. If we move on to the mission, once again, just a general comment on the feedback we received. And then they're asked the following 2 questions. Which of these statements do you like best when you think of a new vision statement for the school district? A, students equipped with the skills and knowledge to be future ready, empowered, active contributors to society. B, to foster individual growth, well-being, and a strong sense of community, preparing students to thrive in a dynamic world. Or C, develop well-rounded individuals who are prepared to meet the challenges of the future with resilience, responsibility, and respect. Once again, the part 2 of that is there anything that we are missing from the mission statement that you prefer? No, I think choice is good as written, or yes, and they can share their information. The nice thing about the survey is it's all written for them, so they can look and compare and think about it. I know reading it off to the board, you're thinking, oh, that sounds really good, and then you move to the next one, oh, I like that even better, or what did that first one say again? But they'll have that visually in front of them the entire time. The values feedback is a little bit different. So the values, we go back to what our previous value statement was. In all of these, we go back to our previous statements. But in the values one, we ask the following questions. We say, which of these value options do you like best when you think of new values for the school district? So the first choice, there's 4 statements. Learning is central, equity is integral, diversity is celebrated, responsibility and respect are fundamental. That's the first choice for the values. The second one is learning comes first, equity is key, diversity is valued, responsibility and respect are essential. But on this question, they get a choice of saying, or which 3 words would you choose that would describe the district's values? And they have a choice of respect, growth, inclusion, equity, community, and responsibility. So it's kind of 2 different ways to look at that one. It'll be interesting to see what those responses are. And then the final question there is there anything that we are missing from these possible values? Simple no answer or yes, and then they share maybe a statement that they feel is missing from this. And all of that was generated based on the 713 submissions we received. So we tried to do an adequate job of gathering all that information and trying to coalesce it into something that we felt was responsive, but also represented what people were saying. So we're hoping to get this out next week. We kind of figured the first week of school is probably a little too soon with everything that's going on, but put it out. It'll be interesting to see the types of response we get, and we'll have the ability to also tell the board how many were parents, how many community members, how many staff, how many students. And then we'll bring this back to the board.
How will people receive this invitation to exercise their choices?
I think they'll be receiving it through via email, correct?
Email, and it'll also be posted on the district website and shared through social media, like we did last time.
Wait. Well, and it seemed like it was pretty, actively engaged in various time around. So we'll see. And then once we get those statements, we'll bring them back to the board and hopefully incorporate that into the strat plan, and the strategic plan will be completed until we have to renew it after 2028.
How long is it open for?
Typical is about a 2-week period.
I'm just wondering how we're getting it specifically to the students. So I know our student leadership meetings over 2 weeks away.
Yeah, we did have to go a couple different times to students, so that might be a direct contact with the principal of the high schools, middle schools, and say, hey, can you help promote this in your school settings?
Really appreciate the simplicity and the clarity of the framing. I think that's going to make it very inviting for people to respond.
And I'd just like to thank you for your work, both of you. I know that the board put you to a task that not everyone loves to go through visioning and mission and value statements, But the statements that we were working under were quite antiquated. They didn't really reflect our education system currently. And I'm deeply appreciative to those participants for giving us some feedback, because these statements are statements that should resonate with you as a staff member, as a parent, as a student. It should be something that you feel proud about, that your school district stands for. And without your feedback, we would have just thrown some great words at a wall and hoped for the best. But hopefully this will be genuinely reflective of our school community. So thanks for your work.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Jennifer.
Oh, lots of thanks to Jennifer.
700 and how many? Thanks to Jennifer.
On to educational issues, Superintendent Manning, digital device restrictions in schools.
Okay, so unless you've been living completely off the grid over the last year, you couldn't help but notice that digital devices were in the media, and they are in the media all over the place right now, because every school district in the province has been tasked with coming up with an operational procedure that restricts the use of digital devices in schools. And the whole point of this is to reduce distractibility and to keep kids safe. So we have unrolled our version of our digital device restrictions. It's operational procedure 359. We have taken a tiered approach where it is different at elementary and middle and secondary school under this approach. And I will just give you the operational procedures there for you to read, but I'll just give you the gist of it. In elementary, basically, we don't have cell phones in elementary. A student could theoretically bring one to school, but it stays away for the entire day, not to be seen. They could theoretically use it before school and after school, but no cell phones in elementary. In middle school students are allowed to bring their phones and use them before and after school. However, once they get to the school site, they are put away. They cannot be used at recess or lunch either. They can only be used during instructional time with a teacher or an administrator's permission. And then at secondary school, cell phones can be used before and after school. At secondary, students can also choose to use them at their break time and their lunch time. They are being encouraged to socialize and do other activities and not get hooked into their phones at that time, but they will be allowed to use them. And both of our high schools have already sent their personal school codes of conduct that discuss consequences and how they plan on implementing their operational procedures. But as one of the members of the committee that sat down and looked at this, Kai Taylor, Vice Principal of Timberline, said we're building a culture, and it's going to take a while to build that culture. So we expect bumps along the way. We just have to be unified in our voice and our method and see this through. So we've received lots and lots of positive comments from parents with positive emails. They're happy to see this happening. Positive comments by students through the student council, but we also know there's going to be some challenges too. I don't know if the board has any questions about that.
All right. On to 13B, the literacy framework. Superintendent Kyle.
Wanted to share with the board and everybody who's listening that the official rollout of our literacy framework, which has been a 3-year labor of love by not only the working committee putting it together, but also educators that are in our system. It has been rolled out to every teacher in K-5. They each have a binder of resources on how do you teach literacy at the different grades. The framework itself has been printed and everybody's got one, but it has been implemented concurrently. So this is not sort of the start of anything new. For any families that are listening or parents, we'll continue to encourage you pre-kindergarten to read to your kids, read with them as they gain skills. The more literacy and reading to kids is going to have them be better readers. We know better readers will do better in numeracy. And as it was shared today, even with kids in daycare, the more conversations we have with kids will build vocabulary, which is just so critical to literacy. So we're really excited about this. This was as I say, a labor of love. literacy is a passionate area for all educators and you know, differences on how to do, but this is a recent research-based way to roll out literacy in schools. We do have a district screener, it's called DIBBLS, and it was developed in the University of Oregon, and it's a well-respected, you know, some people are not as keen on it as other assessments, but what it does is it gives us district data on where we can resource, where there's intervention with kids earlier than we've been able to do in the past. And we've been able to see growth in the last three years of where kids started and where they are now, because we've been able to really target in both at the classroom instruction by the teacher, by LST, sometimes by testing to see if there's some learning challenges. So it's a pretty comprehensive framework and resource that has gone together. And again, it's in every teacher from K to 5 in their hand for the first, they got it last week. It's in every administrators. Our district literacy coordinators are working with teachers and administrators individually and collectively on how to do some of this work on the passionate and hardworking teachers that we've already got in our system. So we're pretty excited about it, but I do want to acknowledge the working team that has worked 3 years with hundreds and hundreds of hours, and that is retired Principal Kim Pennington, Principal of Quadra Laurel Viney. We also have our Vice Principal, who is now at Pinecrest, who is all at LST, and French Immersion, Rachel Black. We have our Director of Inclusion, Brenna Ewing. We had school psychologist Alyssa Bolins, who is now the District Principal of Inclusion. And critical to all of that work is our literacy coordinators, Christine Fraser and Audrey Schroeder. And it was just such a pleasure to learn with and from them over this time. So this is exciting for our district. Is there any questions or comments people have? All right, read to kids more and more and more. Have them. Thank you.
Conversation.
Lots of conversation. Thank you.
Parents are your child's first and best teacher. Seeing no business administration, no committee reports because it's early. And seeing no other business, are there any questions on agenda items this evening? Yeah.
Can you tell me if there's been any budget allotted to either support resources or training for the new digital devices, policies and operational procedures?
Yes.
Yeah, although we haven't like allocated a specific budget, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna assess the needs like as it comes from our schools, and we will resource where necessary. We do have money set aside for something like that would easily fit under our strategic priorities, for instance. But we're kind of waiting to see what the schools are gonna tell us.
Thank you. And just a comment through the chair to Mr. Patrick. It was a little bit difficult to follow his presentation when what was up on the board did not match what was in the board package. It was like, I think the information was all there, but it was in a different format. So as he was referring to different columns, it was difficult. So it would be helpful, I think, in future, if there was something up there that we could follow here, because it's hard to see, as well as for the people at home who may have printed something or have a split screen, they may not be able to do that.
Thank you for the feedback.
Just a comment, thank you. But it was a good report, thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the online environment?
No, there's not.
All right. So I feel confident that on our first meeting, we could move to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Hagan.